What drives someone to change the world? Welcome to Social Trailblazers, where we seek to answer just that question. Join Kelly Hernandez, CEO of Nonprofit Marketing Nerds, as she interviews leading social innovators and nonprofit changemakers. This podcast is brought to you by Donorbox, the easiest way for nonprofits to rock their online donations.
Welcome back to another episode of Social Trailblazers. I am so excited to have a face that probably everyone in the nonprofit space recognizes, and that is Jena Lynch. Jena Lynch is the Education Community Engagement Manager for Donorbox, which is, if you follow nonprofit marketing, it's one of my favorite tools when it comes to nonprofits collecting their donations online, especially small to mid-sized nonprofits ready to scale. Not only is Jena full of knowledge, and I would argue more digestible knowledge than a lot of other content creators out there through her work at Donorbox, but she's really an amazing, kind human that has an extensive background and diverse background in the nonprofit space. If you're looking for great tips when it comes to nonprofit fundraising and marketing, Jena's the go-to, and I'm so excited to be able to chat with her today at this week's Social Trailblazers. Jena, thank you so much for joining. I'm not going to lie. I know we've worked together, we've collaborated on some things, and I've, been fortunate, like a lot of people, I think, in the nonprofit space. If you type in Google, if you listen to a nonprofit podcast, if you don't recognize Jena's face, 100% you'll recognize her voice as we dive a little bit further in. But I'm so excited to have you. I'm a little bit fangirling, but thank you so much for your time.
I'm so happy to be here, and right back at you. I'm always fangirling over you. So this will be fun.
Yeah, I think so too. So, I know right now you serve and has done such an amazing job providing wonderful podcast, wonderful content through Donorbox as the Education and Community Engagement Manager for Donorbox, along with the co-host of the Nonprofit Podcast, right?
Yep, that's it.
So a lot of people know you from those things and YouTube. I know if you search anything nonprofit related, you tend to see Jena's face. But I bet a lot of people, and actually I don't know about how you got started in the nonprofit space. Tell us a little bit about your first nonprofit job.
Yeah, I think I'm like a lot of people. I am an accidental nonprofit person. So my first job out of college wasn't technically a nonprofit, but it was public service. So I actually started as a children's librarian at a public library in Florida. And this was right out of college, right? I did the hokey pokey every day, 5 days a week for like 2 to 5 year olds. And it was like definitely where I learned to be comfortable with public speaking. And I think like if you can get through the hokey pokey with a group of toddlers and not absolutely embarrass yourself every single time, you can pretty much handle anything. But then after that, my first real nonprofit job was at the Center for Puppetry Arts. So think Jim Henson, the Muppets, Dark Crystal, like the most magical place. And I managed the volunteers and the museum programming there. So it was a little bit of, volunteer management and getting to do crafty, creative things, which really helped because I came from a children's library service job. So it was really cool. It was my first nonprofit job, and I'd like to say it was like, I don't want to say my favorite, but boy, like to show up to work with Big Bird, like in a big case next to you every day, like it's pretty hard to beat. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. And I love the hokey pokey. So if people are thinking about getting started in nonprofit education, it all starts with the hokey pokey. Yeah. That's what I heard.
Hokey pokey. You just got to put one hand in.
Oh, too funny. Okay. And then, okay, I'm like, wow. So those both sound like very unique roles. I'm like, which one should I ask more questions about? So, one of the things that's happening right now in the volunteer management space is there's just so much chaos and people don't know what to do. Can you share a little bit more about exactly what you did with volunteer management and maybe like what you think, maybe a little tip for people trying to figure that out?
Oh, sure. It's different at every place, right? At the Center for Puppetry Arts, we were starting from zero. We did not have a formal program. We didn't have volunteer management software. We didn't have Google ads going out to ask for volunteers. So it really started with community building from the inside out, right? Who our most loyal supporters were, who would show up for shows, like just completely dedicated to the puppetry space, and word of mouth. At that point, I knew nothing about marketing. I still have the marketing education I have is from Google and from people like you, Kelly. It was the community building and just showing up in your community really made a big difference. I also worked for a domestic violence shelter as a volunteer manager, and that was very different because we worked in locations that we could not disclose, and we had to vet our volunteers very heavily, right, to make sure that they were serving in the right space. There was a point, I was there during COVID, where volunteers couldn't be on site, and that was very difficult. So I think the lesson from all of this is work within your community, but you can turn your volunteers into ambassadors. When I couldn't have my volunteers on site, I said, well, guess what? You can start a peer-to-peer campaign. You can fundraise for us. Whoever gets this amount by the end of the month, we'll do X, Y, and Z for them, right? And they really showed up. Your community shows up. Your stronger supporters, they will be your ambassadors. And that's something that I will always take with me.
Oh, I love that. And I know it's a lot of the advice you give at Nonprofit Marketing Nerds. We always talk about activating your advocates, and that's really your front line. And it sounds like you were more strategic, right? A lot of us are just bootstrapping through COVID, right? And it's great that you found an opportunity to repurpose that relationship in a way that met the new and emerging needs of the organization through that transition. So, wow. So, children's librarian, puppetry, working at domestic violence as a volunteer manager, and now, as what most people know you as Donorbox's education community engagement manager. What exactly is that? For those of us, maybe there are some, I bet there's one person here, maybe my mother that's watching this, that doesn't recognize you. Everybody else probably is excited to hear the battle story of you. But what exactly do you do with Donorbox?
My answer to this changes any given day. I don't really know how to answer it completely. I would say, and this is not perfect by any means, but my job is about helping nonprofits just feel a little bit more equipped, a little bit more supported, a little bit more confident in their fundraising. Like you said, I try to create and lead webinars and work with our amazing content team to write helpful guides. And though I am the talking head on our YouTube channels, we have an amazingly genius brand and production team who writes scripts and finds the concepts and finds the pain points for me to talk about. And all of that to say, I just want to talk to nonprofit leaders and to help them work in a way that is most effective for their fundraising, how to connect with their donors in a meaningful way, making sure that their tech is not scary to them. I definitely have tech PTSD from some of my past jobs, and I carried that with me from one job to the next. So demystifying certain things, making things less scary. So I guess in a nutshell, it's just all about giving nonprofits the tools and the knowledge and the resources and the confidence they need so that they can keep on raising money or start raising money for the work that they need to do.
Awesome. And I love that about you, about Donorbox. And again, this is not a Donorbox ad, but I wanted to share something. I told you I'll only ask you a certain question. I'm going to share something pretty cool. Actually, I was at coffee this morning with one of our clients that uses Donorbox, and he's the least tech savvy person. And he's always I'm going to break something. Kelly, can one of the team just show me how to do this? And he had gotten into Donorbox himself and changed some things around and did it all. And he was so excited to tell me, I did it all myself.
I love that.
And I think, it's wonderful that Donorbox has resources like you to teach nonprofits at various levels how to move to the next level, how to navigate through. But I will say, you talked about, text PTSD. And I guess that's part of why you're at Donorbox, right? Is everything's very seamless on the back end too for nonprofits.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is something I wish I was using when I was actually boots on the ground for sure.
So you talked a little bit about some of your experiences that have shaped kind of where you are now and why, I think of a lot of diverse background. But every nonprofit has different challenges. Is there anything that's come up so far that you're like, this is really where I learned how to fundraise that you haven't mentioned yet? Like, this was the first time I was like, this is what I should do. And no, it's okay.
Yeah. I don't know if there's like a big aha moment, right? But like you said, I think a lot of it comes from being in like different roles myself, right? Like having to last minute write grant applications and like literally like, when's the due date? And like, kind of freaking out, trying to pull all your stats from all, everywhere, managing volunteers with no budget, literally like $30 a month was my budget, or like launching events with like 2 weeks notice. I know how it feels to like pour your heart out into something and like wonder if you're doing enough. And I think that's given me a huge amount of empathy for people I talk to every day, right? We work with organizations of all shapes and sizes and revenue. So I think when I create content or I lead a webinar, I always try to ask like, what helped me when I was in that role, right? I think that lens helps keep things practical and like encouraging, and not just like a list of this A, B, C, D, this is what you do, but like, here's how to actually do this with the time and the team that you have. So I leaned into those types of resources when I was like, oh no, what do you mean? Like, this was a volunteer and now you're asking me to start a peer-to-peer fundraising program, right? I Googled the heck out of resources. I had so many ebooks saved and I attended all the webinars. Like I said, I was an accidental fundraiser. So I don't know if that answered your question, but here we are.
Yeah. And I do think, it's funny. It's so funny, I think, for you and I both sitting here talking about how I think part of the reasons we're sitting here as educators in the nonprofit space for fundraising and marketing is we were doing it the hard way, bootstrapping it, having to figure it out. And like, isn't it amazing that like now others can learn from, I say failing forward is what I call it, right? Like I fail forward, but I want to hand over the tools so they can just hit the ground running.
This episode is brought to you by Donorbox, the online fundraising platform that streamlines your process, elevates your donations, and ensures a user-friendly experience for your supporters. Explore the world of simplified, seamless fundraising at donorbox.org today.
So I want to emphasize for people that are like, oh, wow, what is Jena really like? Like, again, we've been there, and that's why we're kind of here. Is like, we don't want you to have to fail forward. Like, we want to just say over success. Oh, that's me.
Oh, yeah.
So, I know you are very, and especially the Donorbox team, you're very in tune with what's happening in the nonprofit space. And what do you see as some of the biggest mistakes when it comes to fundraising?
This is probably not very innovative, but this is something I find myself talking about a lot. Only reaching out when you need money, right? I'm sure you talk to lots of people about this too. Donors don't want to feel like you're just asking, right? They want to be a part of your story. And I think that's a big one, right? That communications calendar is a relationship builder, right? And on the same note, like sending the same generic message to everybody. If I've been giving to an organization for a couple of years, or I've given to them a few times, and I get like a dear friend email, I'm like, I see you, but you don't see me, right? I think the personalization goes a long way, and it's a little bit of elbow grease right up front, right? To segment and know your donors, but you need to know your donors. Asking for money is only a tiny part of fundraising. It's that relationship building. So, and then, personalization, don't be too formal. My favorite newsletters I get from nonprofits, like they don't sound like robots. They're not trying to sound nonprofit-y. They talk like real humans. And I think showing up like that is so important to people. So, not innovative by any means, but I see those things and I think it makes a difference.
Yeah. And I think, you said don't sound robot-y, but it's true. And, we see all these, I always say like, you need to lead with your heart and the nitty gritty of your organization. And you probably get these emails, like you said, dear, blah, blah, but also like you'll have a wonderful, impactful organization that all of a sudden puts on like I'm an institution hat, right? And like speaking all these flaw words that don't mean anything. And so, yeah, Jena's like, don't do that.
And I've been guilty of this too, right? I think there is this mindset for a long time, like perfection is what we need to, bring in the support we need. But I think over the past few, wasn't there like the trending word on Merriam-Webster a couple years ago was authenticity. And for a reason, right? Like this is what people want now. It really does make a big difference. And it takes a little bit of a mindset shift and like letting go and just feeling free to be, I guess. That's a little hippy dippy trippy, but
that's funny. Yeah, feeling free to be. That's what we're gonna, Jena. We have not what we're calling it yet. That's what we're gonna talk. Feel free to be.
Oh boy.
We will not title this podcast episode that, but I think it's so true, and I really hope that nonprofits. I know that there are some listening right now that are so guilty, and it's okay. Practice grace with yourself. I know Jena preaches that, right? But also do better. That's what I would preach. Also do better. That's coming from me, not Jena. So in your work, you've helped a lot of nonprofits improve donor engagement, and I would argue also like a lot of what from an education platform Donorbox really helps with, I think, if you're binging the podcast and you're binging your YouTube videos, is also donor retention, right? You're not just about donation processing, you're really about retaining donors. What are some of your go-to tips when it comes to donor engagement and retention, in addition to just feel free to be?
Oh man, I'm going to get a tattoo of that. You wait. Again, I don't think these are particularly innovative, but they're important. And I think even the simplest things tend to be the things that are the most looked past, right? So this one's going to blow your mind. Are you ready? Make it easy to give. Make it easy to give, especially on mobile, right? You got to have that bright, shiny beacon of a donate button. People need to know where they're going when they're ready to support you. Make it easy to give. That is the number one thing, and it's so easy to take care of. Obviously, we're talking about retention. You want to say thank you in a heartfelt way, not, dear donor, your $50 was very generous. Thank you, right? Like it's, you did awesome. This was an awesome choice. Look at the awesome things you did, right? A text message, an email, a video, whatever. I mean, like people want to be recognized. They want to be thanked, right? And then keeping people in the loop. We just talked about communication. Silence creates doubt. Silence creates doubt. You don't have to make a promise to communicate every week. It could be regular updates. It gives you some flexibility, right? But keeping people in the loop, short updates, a few sentences, a quick picture, a quick iPhone video makes a big difference. And with that, those stories that you talk about all the time that are so impactful, right? And so not a big deal to produce by any means, right? Quick, authentic, wonderful. And just, I think my last thing would be like, look at what your donors are already telling you. And what I mean by that is like, who's opening your emails? Who's engaging with their social media posts, right? Who's giving regularly? Like that is gold. That is data gold, y'all. Like do not ignore that data. Like use it to personalize, right? And prioritize your outreach. I was not a data nerd for a long time, but boy, I can nerd out on some data. So definitely that active listening for sure.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I heard, I love the silence cause. I've never heard that before. I'm gonna steal that, but I will quote you that silence. I think silence causes or increases doubt. It's so true, right? And I hear nonprofits all the time. We partnered with small to mid-sized nonprofits that'll complain about donors not giving. And I'm always like, are you showing up in a place where people would process their connection so they even want to give?
Yeah.
And and that's, I think, an argument for increased social media presence as well. I'll just make that plug, right?
Yes, for sure. I agree.
So, awesome. You've given some great tips when it comes to, engagement. Is there anything specific for, let's say you're super small, founding nonprofit, it's your first 100K. Do you have any specific tips that are maybe more budget friendly for those small nonprofits that have limited or no resources. And I know you've been in-house at many of them.
I love a scrappy startup. Like, hello, all of you. I see you. I hear you. I feel for you. I think the first thing is like to take advantage of the free and low cost tools. And I'm not meaning for this to be a plug, but I wouldn't be doing my job if it wasn't. Donorbox, for example, right, offers some great features to help small nonprofits raise money without breaking the bank. And what's great about that is you can start for free. You can build your first campaign for free, and then you can grow, and your tools and your offerings, our offerings will grow with you when you're ready to expand, right? Take advantage of free tools. Canva for nonprofits. Oh, I love Canva for nonprofits, right? That's your marketing and social media right there. I think that's the big one, right? You don't need to pay for really expensive stuff to get the job done. And then lean into what you do have, right? If you're starting with very little, if you're newer in the nonprofit space, like you do have your story, you do have your passion, you do have your community, whether that's your aunt or your cousin or your neighbor across the street or your sister, whoever that is, right? You do not need a huge marketing budget to tell a great story and thank your community and connect with them well, right? And then like repurpose content. Oh, content's like, I think this is one of the biggest discussions we have in our coaching calls and like workshops that we do is like, it's so much work and that's a whole full-time job, right? But like, do not recreate the wheel. And I'm sure you talk about this too a lot, Kelly, is like, repurpose it. If you write a great newsletter, that might have taken you a couple hours. It's good stuff, right? Turn it into a social post. Turn it into a series of social posts, right? Paragraph 1 is post 1. Paragraph 3 is post 3, right? If you get a lovely testimonial or, something like that, use it on your website, use it in your newsletter, use it everywhere. I think that's a big part of it. And like, just use your network, right? Collaborate with similar organizations. I think community is more important now than ever. It does not have to be a competitive space. Look at organizations that are similar to yours with similar goals in your community or nearby, right? Work with them, collaborate with them. Local businesses, right? Even volunteer networks that you can tap into, right? People love to help. They just need like a way in. That was a mouthful. There's a reason why there's a time limit on this, right? Just a few things.
Just a few things. No, but those are great. And I want to zero in on one thing you mentioned in passing was Canva for nonprofits. And a lot of nonprofits are paying for Canva, but they don't have to, correct?
No, they don't have to. It's probably just canva.com/nonprofits. I'm not sure. But yes, you can apply for this and it's free. And it's free with like all the fancy premium bits and bobs too. You don't need to be paying. I don't know how much Canva costs, but you don't need to be paying for it.
It's getting more and more expensive. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a secret question. I hope you don't get mad at me.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
And for those of you listening, I even have this labeled secret question. It's not a question, but one of the, I think, Jena, known you or collaborated with you for maybe almost, let's say, a year. One of the tests I've given to a couple of my friends is showing them reels of you. And I bet there's even someone watching this right now and they're like, oh my word, she is a real person. And well, it's about 50-50 if people think you're a real person or AI.
Oh, yeah.
I think you should take that as a compliment, right?
Okay. All right.
It means you are somehow, right, aspirational to others.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Jena, you're a real person. I can vouch. I've met her in real life. Jena's a real person. I am not talking to
I really appreciate it.
But I can vouch. And this is this Social Trailblazers is proof. But I do know that Donorbox uses AI and that AI is floating around a lot in the nonprofit space.
Yes.
And a lot of nonprofits are scared of AI, which is not you. You are not AI, but they're scared of AI. That's not Jena.
Nonprofit and association leaders, I've got a secret weapon for you. Imagine sitting down for just 30 minutes. Yes, 30. And walking away with a treasure chest of marketing gold. polished videos, scroll-stopping reels, compelling blogs, and share-worthy social posts. That's the Content Lab, where our team of marketing nerds transforms your mission into magic. You bring your expertise, and we'll handle the rest. Ready to feel like a marketing wizard? Visit nonprofit-nerd.com and check out the Content Lab. Type discount 200 at checkout to grab your $200 discount. Limited time only. Catch you in the lab. The Content Lab.
How do you see nonprofits maybe being able to use AI specifically for fundraising? Because I know that's where you love to nerd out.
Oh, yeah. And this is something that I've been really excited to learn, right? I will start with this. I am not a techie person. If you had told me 4 years ago that I'd be working for a tech company, I would have laughed you to another state. I am not a tech person, but I am very curious. It starts with that curiosity, right? There was even a time when first, OpenAI and all that came out. I'm like, no thanks. I'm good, right? A little scary. Do I have to be polite to it? Is it going to become sentient? What do you do, right? It starts with, having an open mind. But honestly, I think that AI is just an amazing tool that you are missing out on if you're not using it. I'm so excited. Donorbox has launched JAI, which is built in to our fundraising platform. And you can ask it prompts. It will use your donor data to answer things, right? Hey, make me a pie chart in pink ombre colors about giving trends and XYZ. It'll do that for you, right? Write me an appeal letter, and then you go in and you fix it yourself and make it really your own. So I would say experiment with it, right? Identify areas where you feel like you could use help, where you could, learn how to be better in these areas where you don't have enough time. There are amazing prompts out there that I use, hey, pretend like I am the top marketing expert in the world. What would you say, right? There are plenty of ways, or teach me this in 5 minutes. I'm blabbering. All to say, I would say identify areas where you feel like you can improve, or you feel like you could use more time, and AI can help with that. Just experiment. Don't be afraid of it. There's a lot of tools out there, but I'd say start simple. By no means do you need to automate your entire workflow with AI, but hey, it can help sort out data for you. It can help you find a voice that is authentic to yourself and to your nonprofit's brand. I think it's a super cool tool, and I'm learning things every day.
And I think, you're so funny. You said, oh, I'm just blabbering. And I'm sure people listening are like, I'm going to steal both of those prompts that almost came out of Jena.
Oh, and full disclosure, those were not the full prompts, but I do have some good ones. I'll send them to you.
All right. Yeah. So, you brushed across JAI. That's, again, a Donorbox tool within Donorbox. And I, had the privilege of kind of messing around on the back end and playing a little bit. And as someone that was an in-house director, and you have those board meetings coming up and you want to give meaningful data out, and it's taking literally, I remember me and my assistant, and we'd block out a whole afternoon. So it became 4 or 5 hours of two people's time. And it was I think I was good, but it maybe ended up being, 70% of the data I really wanted to communicate to the board.
Yes.
And, I was so amazed with JAI, if I just type in, I want to know how many new reoccurring donors we've had come in this fiscal year compared to last fiscal year. You type it in and JAI can get it. And if they're not able to get it, they can at least tell you what additional information they need to get you the right data. Yeah. And so what for me might have been 8 hours of me and my assistant's time, I wish JAI existed back then when I was doing it. It would have been a maybe 20-minute task and better outcome than what we were working on in 8 hours. Isn't it sad?
Yeah, and that's, when I was talking about tech trauma, those are the specific instances that I recall specifically. Me and my admin assistant, we'd be trying to pull reports out of, I'm not going to say what program, for these meetings, right? And it was stressful. And I'll add this too. What I love about Jay is that all of your data is safe in the platform, right? So it's not like you're copying and pasting your donor data into some one big wide open platform that just goes, I don't know where, out into the ether, right? That is data that you can use that is secure, and you can ask it whatever you want. And it's right there. So that's a big part of it, right? If you're going to use AI, there needs to be security and like acceptable use policies behind it. And Jay takes care of that. I don't know where anything else goes on any other platform because I haven't bothered to look, but that's scary, right?
That's so true. Yeah, awesome. And that is, I think, a little word of warning when it comes to security. If you are doing all of that in a third-party tool, right, like Claude or ChatGPT, just keep in mind that that data is getting input into an external, right? Just keep in mind you probably shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jena, thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have someone giving so much to our sector as a whole, that you've taken the time, and you're so busy that you've taken the time to nerd out with me a little bit. I know you and I could chat about fundraising and marketing forever and it would never end, especially when it comes to AI application. But I know a lot of people are curious about, who's the Jena behind the brand? So thank you for letting me share a little bit of the real you that I get to know with the world. And yes, she is a real person. Is there anything that you want that we didn't cover that you might want to add?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here. Oh, I don't think so. Just keep on doing good work, y'all. Yeah. I think it's tough out there lately, but the nonprofit sector is resilient. Our people in this community are resilient. Lean into each other, just lean into your community, and, we'll get through it. So, Kelly, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining, Jena. You can find information about Donorbox and how to connect with Jena down in the show notes. If you haven't, and if you're curious, you can always message about anything we can talk about that's not below. Just leave a comment and we'll make sure. And Jena, I want to thank you again for taking time and for being a social trailblazer and joining this episode of Social Trailblazer.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for being such a great partner.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to Social Trailblazers. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who are passionate about making a difference. Special thanks to our sponsor, Donorbox, for supporting this podcast and the incredible work of nonprofits everywhere. Join us next time as we continue to dive deep into the motivations of the change makers shaping our world. Until then, keep trailblazing.